Welcome, everybody. As always, please do me a favor and let me know if the audio and visual is all good on your end. I just want to double check once again that the stream is actually working properly. Hopefully, you're all having a fantastic day. Good news or bad, depending how you feel about me. But I never got lost in the forest and I'm back. So I figured a quick live stream would be a nice way to play catch up on the charts. So here we are. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me, if the stream's actually working and everything. All good, right on. Thank you very much. And as always, guys, if you could do me a favor, if you appreciate these live streams and you're just having a good day and happy to be here in general, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. With that, let's hop right into the charts, you guys. Hopping over to Bitcoin on the 4-hour chart. So in my last stream last week, before I took off there for a few days, I was mentioning that, it was possible that we see a little bit lower. At this point, I'm curious to see what happens. I honestly see conflicting stories right now as far as the midterm. But basically last week, I was mentioning that, hey, we had this bearish STUBER happen. Although we got this nice little swing fail rally here, it was still a lower low that we set. And then we set another lower low. That's where this bearish STUBER came into play, because that would be our highest point between the two. So we pulled the fib down and ended up testing the 786 perfectly there and seeing a rejection. And it went, obviously, first target is that 214 fib, or sorry, what am I looking at here? I don't have that fib pulled right now. Or sorry, yeah, I do. It's just overlapping and it's hard to read right now. But basically, we hit our first target here and we hit our second target there, right? The smaller fib that we have pulled here. Now, the question is, are we going to continue to the downside? Have we broke any structure to at least reduce the risk of going significantly lower? There's a few things that have developed over the last few days while I've been gone here. One thing is that since we had this little downtrend on the 4-hour, you guys, we actually set another low here. Well, actually, so we set another one here, confirming this is our lower high, lower low here, confirming lower high, and another lower low. And notice I have this little green line here. We did technically break some structure there, right? We at least broke the immediate downtrend, this micro downtrend that formed basically right here. So at that point, yeah, we ended up pulling back and testing that 786 absolutely perfectly. For those of you who have picked up on these STUBER fibs quite well and looking for this structure and those retests, maybe some of you guys caught this. I barely had any reception where I was in the forest, so I actually never did catch this. I had it mapped out ahead of time, but unfortunately, I never did just set the blind orders or anything. So whatever it is, what it is. But at this point, guys, this is where I am a little bit on the fence right now, because part of me is expecting that we test this full range STUBER fib, which would be significantly lower, kind of targeting closer to 104K, down towards 101K. I could see that happening yet, just because we did start this little downtrend here. It makes sense that we would retrace that whole range. And as I was talking about in my last stream, guys, we have that same range on the weekly. We have that structure there. I'll get into that in a second as well. However, one good thing going for the bulls is, like I said, that micro downtrend has broken. So it's possible that this little move here may have been a little bit of a bear trap. We'll have to see. We obviously have some resistance going up since this is our pivotal point here. I'm going to pull a fib from there as well to look out for resistance if we do end up climbing higher. But it is nice to see that we did invalidate this, and we even respected the STUBER fib, right? We tested the 786, hit our 0.5 target, hit our 214 target. Yeah, it's a small range. But at this point, if you had taken that as a long position, you would be in a risk-free trade, locked in some profits already, and your stop loss would be updated. And then if the remaining half of your position takes off to the upside, fantastic, right? But we'll obviously have to see what happens. Me personally, you guys know for a while now, honestly, since Bitcoin was probably around 110,000 US dollars, I've been significantly more interested in altcoins since that. But I still do want to take a look at Bitcoin. I know most of us, we respect Bitcoin a lot more than random meme coins and random altcoins and stuff like that. So I obviously want to see the strength of the market. But since Bitcoin broke that macro resistance and Bitcoin dominance dropped off a cliff, and all these warning signs that, Bitcoin dominance dropped off a cliff, you guys, but the price didn't, right? Yeah, we're ranging and we took a little tumble, but really for how the dominance has dropped like that, I mean, that still looks like a healthy market to me. Even if we do pull back lower, like I said last week, we could pull back to that same fib I was just talking about, that 104 down to 101, even a little bit lower, right? We could just do a little swing fail between that 98 down towards 94,000 US dollars. And although it would start to look a little bit weak, that wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world. That would still be holding this uptrend. And like I said in my last video, you guys, I feel very different about this chart than I did, last time when we were kind of trading around these levels, around that 110 up to 115K. Because the bulls have drastically changed the structure of this chart. Right before, I mean, our higher low was way down here at about 74K. But since we set a new higher high and another higher high, what's the lowest point between the two? That's that $98.1 thousand level. And as long as we stay above that, this uptrend on the weekly is still intact, right? This was not a higher low. As far as I look at structure, yeah, that's some sort of structure, some sort of consolidation. But I don't actually consider that a higher low until we've set another higher high, right? Because then it would be confirmed at that point, and you would have obviously a higher low, which would be around 111K. But we don't have that yet. So at this point, this is the range that I'm looking at on the weekly. And yeah, there is the odd warning signs, right? I've been talking about these big old divergences that go from overextended territory down to that 70 level. That is a perfect rejection there. So, I mean, the one good thing is there hasn't been much for serious structure broken on this longer time frame here on the weekly to match up with this level. So, or with this RSI rather. Yes, it's a bearish divergence that's worth paying attention to because we are starting to lose strength on this climb here. But that doesn't mean we can't just continue climbing higher, or, even better would be if the RSI would get back above 70. I know I've been talking about that for weeks, that if the RSI goes back above 70, I'm going to be mega bullish again, just because the price loves to climb when the price gets way overextended to the upside in a bull market. That is a absolutely beautiful sign to see that much strength in the market. So yeah, the divergence, it's worth mentioning. It's worth being cautious with, but in my opinion, Bitcoin's going to see some ranging price action. If we could set a new high in the next couple of weeks, then yeah, like I said, we change the structure. But as it stands right now, we're just kind of forming some sort of a range. And even if we come down to that 98K, that would still be that same big range. And on the weekly, it's a small range, but yeah, obviously it is a fairly large range. So yeah, worth mentioning. But as long as we stay above that 98K, I think Bitcoin is looking golden at this point. If we start losing that fib, well, then we have to consider revisiting this support down here. And at that point, just the fact that we would be breaking such bearish structure, I would even be open to the idea of looking for a bearish pull at that point. If let's just say the price action does something like this and pulls back up somewhere in there, I would be interested in looking at some sort of a hedge and possibly looking at things a little bit bearish again for a little bit. We'd be looking at something like this, right? If we lose that higher low, I'd be looking at retesting that. And then as everyone would get mega bullish again near resistance, that's where I would be considering taking some hedges or taking some profits if I'm in any longs from significantly lower or anything like that. That's just where I'll start to get cautious again, just like I did at the 110K level last time, or 110 basically to 114K is kind of where I had that same mentality. I don't really care that I missed that little move from, what was it? I think I missed a move from like 110 to 115K basically. But like I said in those streams, that I was actually taking profits and putting a lot of it into altcoins, and some of those being Ethereum, Solana, and even some meme coins like Troll, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, because some of you guys may remember me talking about this a couple of months back. And we got basically damn near a 20x off the STUBER fib at this point. So absolutely nutty. But again, I'll talk about that later. So yeah, at this point on the 4 hour, like I said, I have mixed feelings because the bullish setup already played out, right? We already made it to the 214 target of the little range, until we either basically, if we set another high like this, then we could start pulling fibs, support fibs. But other than that, it's not even that I'm bearish right now. It's just that the easy bullish safe move has already played out there. So let's check out ALGO Master. That fib is no longer valid, although it did call a nice little move there. Trend Master, I wanted to check. So we do still have a sell signal. I'm actually going to erase this bullish STUBER fib down here, just to clean things up a little bit. Actually, even this one too. So notice we are getting above this sell trend, right? We are currently trading above this blue line here. I would love to see us end up printing a higher buy signal on the Trend Master indicator, because at that point, it would basically just be an easy visual reminder that, hey, things are now trending to the upside. Whereas right now, since we still have this sell signal, I'm not totally opposed to the idea that we visit that lower support level that I was talking about. But again, we print a higher buy signal. And at this point, I would consider this the confirmed higher low, basically. This indicator here doesn't have it yet. Still have some supply zones above us showing some resistance up ahead. We do have some support below us, which is nice. But again, I don't know if these are really going to hold before my fib, unless we do just flip this resistance into support right now, basically. If we do end up bouncing from here, you guys, I was talking about looking for a new potential resistance level. I would pull a fib something like this. And again, it's not even that I'm interested in shorting. It's just to be aware of resistance up here as we kind of get back above 120,000 US dollars. Basically 120 towards 125,000 US dollars. That's all very realistic resistance where the bulls could run into trouble. But again, we're going to have to see if we even get that bounce to those levels, because this isn't saying that, hey, I'm longing and expecting us to get up here, right? This is more so just if we get to these levels, then I'll be interested in watching for some sort of a reaction there. Just want to double check there's not too many questions here. The hack is back. Yeah, buddy. The troll is back as well, which I've been playing your coin there, buddy. I've been playing this quite aggressively. This is probably going to be my best spot bag as far as percentage gains, at least this market cycle. Troll, like I said, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome to the stream. How much is any movement higher in BTC based on continual institutional buying? So first off, I'm going to say I'm not much of a fundamental guy. I just like looking at structure, and as we set higher highs, that confirms higher lows, and therefore I will continue being bullish until that structure breaks. However, quite often what happens for the end of bull markets is when the big money kind of goes hands off a little bit and allows retail to pump the market on low volume, basically, before they're ready to dump. Is that going to happen again this cycle? Is that going to happen anytime soon? Honestly, I have no idea. I'm just going to play the structure for what it is. But I don't know. I've seen rumors of, was it BlackRock selling, or somebody was selling hundreds of millions of dollars of Ethereum ETFs recently, I believe. But does it matter? I don't know. We're just going to have to see what happens. Oh, we have some familiar leggies in the house. Welcome, guys. Good to see you. Good to see you. Doge. I will check out Doge in a little bit as well. I want to take a look at Bitcoin zooming right in. So this would be that same fib that I was just talking about, right? The little guy that I had pulled on the 4 hour here. That would be this same fib that I have here. So again, just notice that after we took out this structure, we ended up coming back, retesting that 786, target 1, target 2. And from here, we see what happens, basically. Even if we come back down to this level, I would be more so waiting for some sort of a swing fail at that point, which would basically look, well, however it goes, but breaking below the lows, but not quite taking out the 115, and then reclaiming that basically 111.8. So basically losing and reclaiming that quickly, looking at some sort of a liquidity grab. That's more so the type of long play that I would look for if we end up getting that type of structure. I wouldn't be blindly laddering into a STUBER fib again, because it's already played out once perfectly, right? So I always like to play them on the first test, because market makers love to test important levels at least once. So that's why you so often get that immediate reaction. Not every time, but so often you get that immediate reaction. And then if you come back and retest it the second time, it's just probability goes down on the setup is all. Not to say it's not support anymore, right? And that's why I'd more so look for that tighter invalidation of some sort of a swing fail. Or if you have some sort of other strategy, maybe there's some bullish divergence showing up in the RSI or some other indicator you look at, then sure, if you have an additional confluence, great. But just as far as a STUBER setup, I would have to be a little bit cautious if we come back down to that level again. I do want to take a look at some altcoins. Let's start with looking at Bitcoin dominance to get an overall feel for the altcoin market. So obviously, I mean, same thing. I've been talking about this for almost a month at this point. This was basically the start of July, end of June. I was talking about if we got a third touch point on this diagonal trend line and then flip it into resistance, that it would be basically a big green light for the altcoin market. And that played out to a T. We got our third perfect touch point, lost that support, flipped into resistance, massive rejection. And the thing is right now, yeah, we saw a little bit of relief in this. That's actually bad for the market, right? We want to see Bitcoin dominance. We want to see Bitcoin's price holding level or even going up a little bit, with Bitcoin dominance dropping off a cliff. That is such a beautiful divergence to see for the altcoin market. And right now, I mean, to me, it looks like, yeah, Bitcoin dominance got this little bit of a bounce, but it's having a hard time getting any momentum. So I would love to see this absolutely dump off a cliff again. It does have a buy signal currently, may end up printing a lower sell signal eventually. That's the thing. This buy signal is actually significantly lower, obviously. So this indicator is trending to the downside currently. So I would not be surprised to see a lower sell come in. And also on the daily, notice that we came in contact with the sell signal basically as resistance perfectly there. So I would love to see this trend continue. That would be so good for the altcoin market. Let me just catch up on the chat real quick. Stu doing YouTube live now. Yeah, I've been live streaming on Financial Summit here just once in a while, usually a couple times a week for since when? January? Actually, no, last summer I was doing it too a little bit. So yeah, I've been doing the live public ones on Financial Summit for a while. So be sure to subscribe to their channel. Like this video, does me a huge solid with the algorithm and all that sort of good stuff. And if you don't want to miss these live streams with yours truly, and you just can't get enough StuTube for some reason, then yeah, do yourselves a favor. Subscribe to their channel as well. 6-week cost basis on BTC is 101K. And so that would actually bring us back down to that level I was talking about back here, right? That would basically be perfectly the 886 of this macro swing here. Trendmaster indicator I can use as confluence here. Because again, if this was our recent buy signal, then this is where we found our support, right? So pulling a fib from that level using the Trendmaster as confluence, that lines up, and that's why I have this purple box down here. So that also just, again, lines up with that weekly pull the way I would pull it without that indicator. It's just a lot of confluence going on for it. So that's why I say that's not off the table for me yet. There's a lot of things lining up with that 104 to 101,000. But again, that doesn't mean I'm bearish. I feel very different about the market than I did as we were testing resistance with broken structure to the downside, but now we have structure to the upside. So I feel good about where the market is right now. Need me a tube of stew. Tiger gets it. Julie, hi there. Welcome. Yes, I will talk about Doge in a second. One can never get enough stew. You leggies are just great. I love having you guys here. Thank you. Yeah. So with that, guys, I do want to hop into a few altcoins. I will look at Doge first. Then I have a few of my own that I want to take a look at. Doge. Ooh, interesting. So I actually had this mapped out a while ago. I have not been trading Doge or anything. I believe somebody had asked me in a recent stream, well, actually, I think several streams in a row, to look at Doge. And this was the fib that I had pulled here. And that STUBER fib played out absolutely beautifully. If you were playing with, laddering in, you hit your 786, hit your 886, your average entry somewhere in the middle here. How big the second STUBER fib target would have been a 50% move to the upside. If you caught that with leverage, congratulations. If you caught that with spot, congratulations. Now the interesting thing is, so we have new structure, right? Because if I pull my fib over like this, notice we have a new high. So we could pull our fib something like this, because since we had our high, we have a higher high. The lowest point between the two is right here. So that's how I have my fib pulled. We have got quite close to the 786. There's a possibility that we front run it just because we are basically finding support basically at this. Let's even go this guy right here. This block here. So notice, yeah, we lost it briefly, but reclaim that. So we do technically have this little cluster, this order block, this little consolidation here of support, and that's where we are currently holding. But as far as looking for a tighter risk type of setup, we might be able to go a little bit lower yet. Something to consider with that. And the thing that I don't like about these setups is that even if we end up losing this support, is technically we might just be coming down to the support of this. So this would actually just loosen up my stop loss a little bit, because the 115 would be a little bit further if I pull from this low. So that's something I would consider doing if I was looking at playing the smaller range here, just because I have a bit of FOMO. I'm worried that we're not going to go much lower. I would consider laddering in at the higher fib, but I would still want my invalidation to leave a little bit of wiggle room. And so I would probably, when looking for my stop loss, I'd be more so pulling from the bottom of the range there. For myself personally, everyone has their own trading strategies. And obviously, if you have your own strategy, I'm just saying what I would look at doing there. Trendmaster indicator. So we do have a buy signal, basically a double bottom buy signal here. So We obviously haven't broke the trend. Oh, we did. Interesting. Interesting. So we obviously had this lower sell signal, right? But one thing that happened is, if this is where we pivoted, we actually broke that level, right? So even though we came back down below it, we broke that structure, and now we're just coming back down to retest some support. So yeah, as long as we hold above this low here, which would be, what is that, approximately 14 cents, 14.2. As long as we're above that, it's looking great. Honestly, even above 13 would be the lows of that range. As long as we're above that, things also look fantastic. Even if we drop down to 10.5, so that's the thing, guys, right? Is on the 4 hour, obviously, this is a very big range. That would be a significantly further move than it looks, because invalidation is basically cutting the price in half. That's one of the reasons why I don't like trading the longer time frames with leverage, is because of that exact thing. But yeah, basically, the way I see it, there's still a nice uptrend. It's just that I think we could go a little bit lower. Let's check out the 1 hour Trendmaster indicator. So same thing, right? We actually have a slightly higher buy signal here. The sell signals are still trending to the downside, but we did get a slightly higher buy signal on the 1 hour. So that might be an early warning sign that the bears are running out of steam. But again, it hasn't actually been broken yet. But if you're looking for some sort of a tighter invalidation setup, I mean, as long as we hold above this 19.5, basically, then it's looking pretty good, in my opinion. But yeah, if it loses that, I see no reason why we wouldn't test that bigger 4 hour fib, basically. Stu escaped the wilderness and went from bear to bull. Yeah, pretty much, hey? I had a, what do you call it, a revelation while I was in the forest. A spiritual moment or something. Yeah, something like that. But no, I've been quite bullish on altcoins for actually longer than I've been bullish on Bitcoin for the last little bit, right? As Bitcoin hit resistance, I thought it kind of made sense that altcoins start doing the same thing, basically. Did DGen Stu stay in the forest? Yeah, I was in the forest near a river for a few days there. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, the 4 hour charts, hey? Well, I definitely won't be streaming here tomorrow, as I'll be elsewhere. So I figure I want to give the longer approaches as well. If I have time, I might jump into some 5-minute charts too. We will see here. Ethereum, guys, I know I mentioned that Ethereum was starting to get to resistance, and this is actually the daily chart, but same thing on the 4 hour, right? Basically, this is one of the reasons why I was bullish on altcoins as Bitcoin was trading at resistance. Is I want to say Ethereum was somewhere down here. It was around $2,000, and I was saying that, with Bitcoin being at resistance, I see no reason why some altcoins wouldn't start doing the same. Because even if the market cycle was over, altcoins generally get a finale type of run at the end of the cycle, where money runs around and just kind of flips between assets for a little while, and then it's the end of the cycle. So I figured, if Bitcoin was done and it was being distributed, then I still thought altcoins would have their final run where they could still, hit some of their macro resistance. Whereas the best case scenario, which is what happened, is that Bitcoin actually broke its all-time high resistance and Bitcoin dominance dropped off of cliffs. And that was an even bigger green flag for altcoins to eventually end up hitting their macro resistance, right? So at this point, I don't really see why Ethereum would have to stop here, but it makes a lot of sense that we're seeing a pause here. Doesn't mean that we have to see a full-on rejection, although we totally could. because we are at macro resistance either way. But just with the health of the market, with Bitcoin dominance, if that's going to drop again, I see no reason why we wouldn't just consolidate here, form more of a base, so that when we end up breaking through, at least we would have more support below us, right? If we do something like this, we have that support, which would be fantastic. That's why it's not necessarily a bad thing that we're consolidating right here, right? We did the same thing here. Notice that we were trading sideways, basically. We tested outside of the wick to the top once, but also we had our fake out to the downside, just like right now, right? We broke resistance once, and then we broke support once, but the overall trend is still to the upside. The market doesn't look too bad, in my opinion. So yeah, I think Ethereum still looks good. And as far as my leverage trading recently, mostly trading, other than trolls, the only thing that I ended up catching anything in the last few days. But as far as, for the most part, my leverage trading these days over the last few weeks has been mostly trading the 5-minute and mostly trading Ethereum and Solana. I haven't really been trading Bitcoin all that much because, again, like Solana's another one. Like I was just talking about with Ethereum, it ended up getting up towards macro resistance, right? And Solana, I still feel like it needs to play catch up and get back up to that 250 to 275 level. That would be it would make perfect sense to me. Even the fact that we have this high, we broke another higher high. So we have a confirmed higher low on this trend. So even if we pull back a little bit, notice I have this purple box here. I'll get into that in a sec. But structure on this little trend is still to the upside. And I see no reason why we wouldn't retest that resistance up there. So that's a big reason why I'm trading Solana a lot recently, is that it's not that it's just going to moon straight there. But if I can catch some scalps on Solana and hope that half a position runs and then it ends up tagging that, that's a nice running position. That's where a scalp can turn into a swing trade real quick, right? So not banking on it, because I'm going to be trading the shorter time frame and taking small profits along the way and reducing that risk and that sort of stuff, just treating the start of my position as more of a scalp. And once there's no risk on the position anymore, that's where I can hope that it turns into a swing trade, basically. 4 hour, like I said, 250 to 275 would basically be the macro STUBER fib pocket. Double top is closer to 300, 297, whatever. And then there's, even if we end up breaking that, we do have to watch for some sort of a swing fail. If we get back above that 300 or even 297 rather, and then get back down below that, especially with some sort of a bearish divergence or something like that, that could be a beautiful short opportunity with a tight stop loss as well, right? But we'll have to see if and when that happens. I'm going to zoom in on Solana to the 5-minute here. So I have a couple fibs mapped out. This little one did end up playing out. I never traded that, but it was something that I had mapped out. I wasn't paying attention, never ended up setting blind limit orders, kind of a thing. So never ended up catching that position. But it did play out, right? I was more so waiting for this long opportunity down here at this fib level, which would be around 159 down towards 157.50. That would be a beautiful pocket to start looking for some long plays, in my opinion. If I can see something developing on the 1 minute or anything like that inside that support level, I would love to look for some long opportunities in there. As it stands right now, we're struggling with a bit of resistance. So I'm just going to remove this because obviously that played out already. I also want to remove this fib just to clean things up. And I have my macro or my fib laid out there, my pocket. Notice where we're starting to struggle a little bit now. We basically tested the 786, starting to see a bit of a rejection. Again, it's not really something I'm interested in shorting at this point. But I also don't want to just YOLO into a long into resistance, even if it is short-term resistance. I just feel like that's a risky entry to get into with leverage. If I was just looking at, dollar cost averaging on spot or something like that, sure, whatever. But just at this point, looking for leverage, we obviously just tested resistance there. So kind of in the middle of a couple things, basically. And guys, like I said, troll just on an absolute mission. I don't know. Maybe some of you gotta let me know in the chat if you were on some of the streams when I started talking about altcoins more, and I was even talking about micro cap meme coins. And I know troll came up at one point. I had a diagonal trend line. I had a STUBER fib. I was also looking at on the 4 hour. I'll take a look at some indicators, but either way, this thing just, basically looking at a STUBER fib here. And guys, I want to be clear about something. Meme coins are extremely dangerous. I mean, especially the brand new ones. Like, I mean, you guys have probably heard the horror stories. They get rug pulled left and right and center. But I look at them as gambles and I treat them as such. So it's not like I go huge into these or anything like that. No more than I'm willing to lose, basically. But this is one, honestly, I had quite a bit of confidence in this one just for the reason that the troll face is like one of the OG memes, right? I mean, I don't know if there's a bigger meme in existence. That literally might be the top meme in existence at this point. And to see it respect a STUBER fib like that, and then it just took off. It's not like I was expecting this, but when I was just expecting to kind of, hit some of my targets basically, and hopefully further, but it just absolutely blew up. And another thing that basically I added to my position as it started breaking out, because the ALGO master indicator, these bands really split open, right? The Bollinger bands, and with some fair decent amount of volume there, because both sides of things are really lightening up there. But basically these bands totally separated, right? And here we ended up actually closing a daily candle above that. That was a big sign of a breakout to me. So lined up with the fact that support held and just being an OG meme and everything, I was willing to hang on to that. I actually, I took this screenshot earlier today, but I even have a leveraged long position on this. Again, not a huge position, but at 10x leverage and over 1,000% in one day, absolutely ridiculous. Obviously that's very high risk. I mean, especially adding leverage into coins like that, very high risk, guys, understand that. But yeah, this thing on an absolute moon mission. To be honest, guys, yeah, I'm talking about this right now. And yes, I personally believe that it can go a lot higher because the market cap I got in at around a $15 million market cap. Now it's close to 200 million. It's at about $193 million market cap right now. There is other meme coins that have basically the same amount of trending on social media platforms and stuff with 20 to 40x market caps of this. So I do think that it can run. That being said, guys, I think it's more of one of those things that it'll be volatile, and I'm more so looking to, I would consider longing it again. I would consider even buying more spot, but I'm not buying it into FOMOing into all-time highs like this. It might go straight up, but so often I don't want to be that guy who's shilling meme coins at you guys and telling you it's a good idea to buy, because they're so risky, and especially when it's already done basically a 20x right off the 886, currently up about 17x, but it basically made 19x. Like, that is on an absolute moon mission. Yeah, things like Pepe and Doge and coins like that went to billions of dollars of market caps, and they didn't really see those pullbacks. So yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those things that this train has absolutely left the station. I've even sold about a third of my spot bag, and I've sold about half of my long position that I was just shared that screenshot of. But yeah, I would need a significant pullback to start buying back into this, basically. What else? Solana, what's the 5-minute trend master looking like? We did set a very slightly higher sell signal followed by a higher buy signal. Again, it's so often a nice early warning sign when you start to see these signals on the MDX Trendmaster indicator, when they start changing direction like that. I just love to see that as confluence. That was another thing, you guys, actually, with Troll, for example. is let's go to the 4-hour, turn on the trend master, and look what happens when we get a higher buy signal, right? We had this buy signal, which, yeah, of course, that was a beautiful signal. But when we actually got a higher one, it was just game on. Absolutely. So I really like looking at this when looking for low cap memes, just low cap coins, or just new coins in general. Quite often when you see that print for the first time, it leads to some very nice gains. So yeah, absolutely, it called it there. I guess technically here it had a higher buy. But then we had lower sells, and as soon as we got so technically a higher sell, right? Very close, but it was slightly higher. And the higher buy, that's where they started lining up, going the same direction, right? So absolutely huge. Solana, yeah, still holding that nice 5-minute trend, but this is the indicator starting to flip towards resistance a little bit. So again, it's just obviously we're just trading at resistance now, no matter how you look at it, basically on the shorter time frames. How much can Doge do in this bull run? I guess I kind of only looked at the immediate range. Hey, I never really did look at the full. Let's zoom out. Take a look at Doge once more. This is not the oldest chart. There must be significantly older. Something like this. How high can Doge go? Honestly, let's look for a few things. I want to look for a few random trend lines here. Let's look at the very outside of this range, right? Going from very wick. I would love to see some sort of a third touch point on this, followed by a breakout. If that happens, I see no reason why we wouldn't test all-time highs again. But we're going to have to watch for this type of rejection, because it's also very possible that, hey, maybe this cycle it does just set a lower high. Who knows, right? What else? What else can we find here? Wouldn't really want to lose that support, but if we pull a fib like this, if Doge is going to do kind of that same thing I was talking about earlier with Ethereum and Solana, I would expect this to end up, retesting macro resistance, which the 786 would be around 59 cents. The 886 would be around 66 cents. Double top would be around 74 cents. And then that liquidity grab zone, the 115, would be up around 84 cents. So it's very possible we reach any of those targets. I don't know for sure if it's going to happen. I don't know if there's a huge push on Doge this cycle or not. Again, I'm not a fundamental guy, but yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't get to resistance. At the very least, retest this kind of resistance. Obviously, if the market gets spooked and everything goes to shit, well, that can happen. But at this point, I see no reason why we wouldn't retest our macro resistance. That would be that same fib that I pulled earlier on the other chart. So the Bollinger Bands are actually squeezing together at this point. I would really like to see them expand the way I just showed on Troll. Oh, that's the weekly. Let's take a look at the daily. Yeah, it's squeezing a little bit. Yeah, I'd really like to see these things open up, kind of like what it did back here. with the price action just hugging the top, right? Just hugging that top band as it breaks out. I would love to see that happen again. If we see these things expand like that again, then I think that's our warning shot that at the very least, volatility is going to pick up. What I assume with how the market conditions are right now, I assume it would be to the upside. But if it starts trending down while the bands are expanding like that, look out. Yeah, what else? What else? AI charting tools. So notice that we're just building a whole bunch of demand below us as well. It's currently, this indicator has also printed a higher low where I had that fib pulled from, that 14.4 cents basically. So as long as we hold above that, things still look great to me. If Doge, I know you're asking how high it can go. Obviously, if it breaks all-time highs, then it's in price discovery. And just like kind of what I was talking about with Bitcoin and stuff, I'm not so much a fib extensions guy. I like the retracements, looking more so for entries and my first, my range targets. As far as fib extensions, you'd have to pull your own and look for some. I just haven't back tested those enough that I'm comfortable giving you any targets with that. But basically, I would just look for, hey, are we setting higher highs? In that case, we are confirming higher lows. And until that structure changes, like let's say we end up breaking all-time highs, something like this, and we get a higher high, that confirms our higher low here. So as long as we stay above that, things are looking juicy. But as soon as we do something like this and we take out our confirmed higher low, something like that, that's where I would be interested in de-risking, looking at hedges short, anything like that. That's where I would start to have my concerns on the price action. But for now, I'm more so watching these resistance levels with the fibs that I have lined out, both the diagonal resistance as well as then starting at the 786 all the way up to the 115. Anywhere in there is fair game to start looking for those bearish structure breaks. But we set all-time highs. It's price discovery, and you just play the trend until it stops, basically. Tony Vase, good to see you. Welcome. Welcome, legend. I actually, before I streamed this, I was just watching a little bit of your earlier stream. But yeah, as it stands right now, guys, like I said, this little range, we've already got this micro move. So from here, I don't know. It's not that I'm bearish, but there is also a lot of things lining up with that 104 and even slightly lower. If we just end up climbing from here, we have to watch out for this resistance as we get towards our all-time high once again. Then just watch out, right? You're going to start seeing FOMO. You're going to start seeing crazy bullish targets and bullish posts right as we get towards resistance again. Right now, people are a little bit cautious. We're in the middle of a big range. People are a little bit cautious. But as soon as you get towards resistance, when people should be, generally speaking, I like to sell resistance. I like to buy support. And this is generally where you start to see FOMO going nuts. And everyone would agree with you that you buy low and sell high. But you can tell on social media that goes straight out the window when the price action actually happens. And that's why I love using these fib pockets, because they're such perfect bull traps and bear traps. It gets emotions running right as, well, what if we break out? Yeah, we might, right? But I would still, I would rather be shorting resistance or selling or taking profits at resistance rather than YOLOing long into resistance, right? So be careful if we do get up back above 120K. But again, it's not that I'm bearish, you guys. I just don't want to long into resistance is all. But no, I think the market's in a good place. like I said, even the fact that we have this structure on the weekly, that divergence does have me, it's got my back up a little bit. But since we still are holding this weekly trend, as long as we're above that 98K level, things are looking glorious to me. Like I said, with the trend master indicator, I'd really like to see us hold. I want to see this blue line turn purple again, or pink, whatever color that is. I want to see that happen, followed by that higher buy signal. That would just show that, maybe we aren't getting that pullback all the way back down to the bottom of our range. If we get that higher buy signal on the 4 hour, that's an early warning sign to me that the trend is going to continue. But so far we don't have that, right? I want to get rid of this fib because I just want to have a cleaner chart. And this one's already played out, so I want to get rid of that one as well. But yeah, basically our range is looking something like that. I will say there's our resistance. Here's the bottom of support, right? Backed up with Trendmaster Confluence, because that's where our previous buy signal was basically launched from. Yeah, so we still have a lower low here. Like I said, we did break this microstructure, so this downtrend may have been ended early. But again, that fib setup has already played out. As mentioned, Solana at that resistance level, seeing that bit of rejection. I see no reason why we wouldn't tag this target, if not this target. Honestly, even at that point, so many of you guys know, those of you guys who have seen my STUBER fibs in action quite often, that this 214 target is actually basically the opposite 786, right? Very close to it anyways. I am not as interested in longing this fib pocket. This is not actually a valid STUBER fib for me because we never broke this high. If we would have broke this high, something like this, then at that point I could have pulled my fib higher, but we never got that higher high. So I don't have that structure lining up with it. It doesn't mean that we can't find support down here. It would still be potential support. It's just not that ideal setup that I like to look for. It doesn't have structure favoring the momentum, basically. We don't have momentum since this rally got shut down a little bit early. See, whereas this bearish one here, this is valid, although I'm not interested in shorting this market right now. It was very much valid, right? Because we had, if you want to look at this as your high, and we got a higher high here, this would be our lowest point. We broke that, right? So we still have this as the top for a fib pull like this, looking for a rejection. And so far, that's exactly where we're getting rejected, right? Bitcoin actually got a little bit higher, right? It actually got more of a double top setup. So again, not interested in shorting at this time. But you would have hit 3 entries if you were looking for a STUBER short setup, right? 786, 886, and your double top. Wouldn't have quite hit my 4th laddered entry if I was playing that, which I'm not, but your targets would be there at about 114, 150, well, call it 114, 150 USD. And the second target for the range would be approximately 113.3 thousand US dollars. How's everyone else feeling about the market anyways? Is anyone terrified of this market right now? Everybody have massive FOMO right now? What are the vibes currently? Because like I said, I never even had reception. I couldn't even look at my phone for several days. So I'm kind of out of the loop. This is just a real nice catch up for me. check out spell. I can check out spell real quick. What would be, I guess this would be our oldest chart here. We talked about this one recently. Holy, oh boy. Okay, we're not even going to consider that wick. There might not be great volume on this pair, but I believe it is the oldest pair. So take it for what it is. We're just going to pretend that wick isn't there. Where did we bottom? We bottomed right about here. So, I mean, the only thing I can really say about it is obviously we are trading around macro resistance, right? This has been, or sorry, support. Sorry, guys. Do not get that mixed up. We are currently trading near daily support here. I want to zoom in a little bit. I mean, you could have looked at this as a STUBER fib, but there was no point because, I mean, it already got to a double bottom, obviously. But yeah, we are still only currently trading at about the 886 right now. So I know nothing about this, know nothing about the fundamentals, have no idea what any of the trade volume or liquidity or what the community is up to. I literally know nothing about this. All I know is it is trading around daily support. It's obviously got a nice little pop off of it yesterday's daily candle here. Did we end up breaking this? We never actually got a daily close above this little range here, but it looks like we... What do we got here? That tested a 786 actually. Technically we had, this is obviously played out already, but we broke that little bit of structure, came back, test that 786, go a little bit higher. So now basically I could pull a new fib from our higher low and we'd be looking at something like this. So even if the price pulled back basically the whole daily candle, it doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with it. Again, I know nothing about this, but just as far as a structure point of view, I mean, it looks like we broke some sort of microstructure at least, and we're trading around macro support. So I would rather be buying than shorting if that's any help. Let's zoom in a little bit. I want to take a look at the 4 hour, see if we can see anything. Same thing, right? We have that same structure. This was our high. Really, we could look for a full range pull, but since we did set that new higher high, I would actually be pulling my fib from here just because that would be our higher low. Although it says lower low with this indicator, I don't agree with that just because of, I'm zooming out a little bit further, right? But it is obviously an interest, pivotal point of interest, we'll call it. What is the Trendmaster saying? Well, we got our higher buy signal once again. So we actually had one back here, right? Basically a double bottom buy signal, ended up breaking above this sell signal, right? Invalidated the lower sell signal here. And then absolutely took off. We even perfectly retested it, right? Broke this level, came back, got the resist support flip, and then they got a nice little trend to the upside. If you ended up playing that, hopefully you're taking profits along the way. But yeah, nice higher buy signal here. Where did that print? That actually printed at the top, well, what, just about 17 minutes ago or so. That is actually where that buy signal triggered. So bit of a late call. I assume at some point we'll end up retesting this purple line as it climbs higher. But yeah, that's one of those times, right, guys? As far as looking for confluence with the trend, we obviously printed a much higher sell signal, and we ended up printing that higher buy signal. So the MDX Trendmaster indicator is just showing us nice confluence that, hey, it looks to me like this downtrend is breaking, right? Because before we had lower trending buy signals and lower trending sell signals, and now that's starting to reverse. So just a bit of a warning sign that the trend is shifting. Although it could be volatile because realistically, what is this? If it pulled back to the 886, that would be over a 20% move to the downside. So just understand that a lot of these coins are very volatile when you're looking at things like a 4-hour chart right now. There has been a lot of volatility in the altcoin market recently. Thanks for joining, Tone. Catch you in the next one. You think any news with Trump will cause direction in the market? Although I somewhat agree with you. I do think that the market will be volatile whenever there's any news with Trump. However, I don't really want to guess which direction that's going to go. And that's where I will consider the fundamentals, but I'm not going to trade them unless the market structure actually lines up with that theory, right? Like if there's a big scare with tariffs and there's a big break in structure to the downside, then sure, I'll assume it's going to be bearish for the price. But if there's some bearish headlines, but we set a new higher high, I am definitely not going to be trying to short against that if the trend is still going to the upside regardless. You think the trend in Bitcoin is lower without institutional buy-in? Yeah, I mean, like I said, I still think it could go lower to the bottom of this range. That being said, we don't necessarily need institutional buy-in as long as they're not selling. If they just, let's say, stop buying and they're letting retail push the price on low volume, for example, that's very possible. We don't necessarily need them buying, but realistically, you're probably right. I'm just throwing that out there as just something to consider, right? LTC. I will check out LTC. And then that's probably it for me. We've actually been going for a while here. So that's another thing. Notice that we got that significantly higher sell signal, higher buy signal, currently testing that buy trend. So I would really like to see Litecoin basically hold above 112 US dollars, but we could come all the way back down to this support down here as well. Right, we could. I'm actually going to delete whatever fib I have here because I obviously haven't looked at this in quite some time. But this would be another one, right? We could pull a fib something like this. And in that case, so with the trend master, I'm looking at it holding above 112. However, if it's in a strong trend, at least. However, understand that if we are going to come back to the bottom of this support range, basically, I mean, that could be anywhere from 109 down to 100 US dollars. I really don't want to see us lose $99. That would be below the 115 here. And in that case, we could test significantly lower levels. But yeah, as it stands right now, I would agree that I think momentum is on Litecoin's side. I think, as I've been saying for quite a while now, I am actually more bullish on altcoins than I am with Bitcoin right now. And even though realistically, if Bitcoin sees corrections, Bitcoin sells off, that doesn't mean that altcoins are immune to that. They're still going to get hammered with Bitcoin when it happens. It's just more so that when the market starts to find its footing again, that's where I'm interested in looking for those retests on altcoins rather than Bitcoin, because the recovery is going to be much larger. At least that's just what I'm assuming, right? Obviously, nothing's guaranteed, but that's kind of my thoughts and why I'm looking at it that way. But yeah, that trend master so far holding beautifully. I did notice earlier I had a blue line here and I was wondering what that was doing there, but it was totally from this lower sell signal. So I was looking at that same strategy basically, right? We had these lower trending sell signals, and then this would have been the last pivot we had before our lowest sell. And then we ended up breaking that. So even though we pulled back slightly lower, we basically retested that buy trend. But this is where the sell signals, the lower trending sell signal was invalidated. And then this buy trend ended up holding the price and pushing us up. What kind of a move was that? That was beautiful. So far 38% to the upside. So yeah, I'd say Litecoin has a nice trend going for it right now. Looking at something like that for support. And guys, again, if you do appreciate these live streams, you appreciate me looking at my personal strategies, taking a look at altcoins, and just having fun looking at charts in general, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as well, for those of you interested in trading based on charts and want to see more examples of my strategies, more examples of how I view market structure in general, just more of my overall thoughts on the market in general, some of my trade setup ideas and that sort of thing, do yourselves a favor and get into my Telegram channel by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description down below. But yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today, you guys. That was a nice catch up on the charts. So thank you to all of you guys for joining me for this quick little stream here. I guess it's not as quick as I was planning, but I just love looking at charts with you guys. So it is what it is. But yeah, other than that, my friends, I hope you all had a fantastic day so far. Hopefully you guys all have a fantastic rest of your evening. I hope you crush these charts. Be safe out there this week, because again, guys, although I'm very bullish on the market right now, understand that that does not mean that we can't pull back further. So I'm going to be taking a look at shorter time frames and stuff a little more closely again, because like I said, I'm finally back here. But yeah, just be careful out there, because I'm seeing a little bit of mixed signals right now, specifically on Bitcoin. But I really do think that if we go lower, it's not the end of the world. I think it's the market's still in a very nice position. It's just that the market's a little more volatile than a lot of people would want to see. So we might see lower prices. That being said, my friends, thank you so much for joining me once again. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.